to all of you, my brothers and sisters, if you will meet me in Mark chapter 11. Mark chapter 11. Meet me right in verse 20, and we will read through verse 26. Mark chapter 11, verses 20 through 26, reads like this if you have the King James Version. And in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, calling to remembrance, said unto him, him being Jesus, Master, behold, the fig tree which thou cursed is withered away. Almost as if he is surprised. And Jesus answering said unto him, said, have faith in God. For verily, which means truly, I say unto you that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, and that those things which he saith shall come to pass. Jesus said, he shall have whatsoever he saith. Seems to me like more of us need to start talking. Therefore I say unto you, what things or whatsoever you desire when you pray, not if, believe that you receive them and you shall have them. And when you stand praying, you ought to forgive, if you have aught against any, that your Father also which is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, you can get up off your knees, because neither will your Father which is in heaven forgive your trespasses. The word of God. But just a few minutes on today, my brothers and my sister, Sister Heaven, good to see you. I want to talk from the subject, if you will, the power of biblical faith, part 2. God has been steering the waters here, Rocky, for some weeks now as we deal with this issue of faith, which actually means, Floyd, God actually has something for us, but it's going to take a measure and the level of faith to receive it. Remember, we looked at weeks ago, we started off with the anatomy of faith. And we were in there 3 weeks, and then after the anatomy of faith, we started this series called The Power of Biblical Faith. And then last week on Mother's Day, we looked at an unnamed mother with an untamed faith. So now we are back in part 2 of The Power of Biblical Faith. And Brother Keith, in part 1, we looked at the object, Sharon and Susan, of biblical faith. And there we discovered that, Joyce, faith is only as strong as its object. You see, we don't have hope in hope. We have hope in him who was dead. We have hope in him who was buried. We've got Michael II. We've got hope in him whose God mighty power raised from the dead. We've got hope in him who said, I am the Alpha, I am the Omega, I am the first, I am the last, I am the beginning, I am the end, I am the amen, and I've got the keys of death and hell in my hands. That's who we got faith in. So if anybody has any question about the object of my faith, the object of my faith is in God's person. The object of my faith is in God's promises. The object of my faith, Isaiah, is in God's power. The object of my faith is in God's purposes. I don't hope in hope. I hope in him. So today, Minister Owens, Reverend Perry, in part 2, we don't want to look at the the object of our faith, but Ashanti, today we want to look at in part 2 the opportunities of biblical faith. Because biblical faith affords us or allows us, Marquise, some opportunities. Biblical faith, number one, it allows us to believe the impossible. Yeah. Stay with me. Stay close. Biblical faith allows us, Robert Henry, to believe the impossible. Yeah. Now let me deal with this word believe and belief. Belief is the act of one who assents intellectually to something proposed or offered for an acceptance as true, or the state of mind of one who assents. Let me put it where you can get it. This is what belief is. Let me get on your road. Belief is you showing up at that new job the first day and actually believing after 2 weeks that you're going to get a check. You ain't seen the banking statement. You don't know where they bank. You don't know if they bank. All you know is after my orientation and after 2 weeks, if you don't pay me, there's going to be some furniture moving. Now y'all know what belief is? Yeah. It allows us to believe the impossible. I remember coming up Raquel as a kid. You see, we only had one TV in the house. I don't know if y'all had it like other. We had one TV, Reverend, so every member of the family watched the same show. And we would sit down, especially on Sundays after Daddy preached at Second Baptist, and he took the whole family in that big old Cadillac to Myers, and we went to the Purple Cow and got a rainbow ice cream for 10 cents. Oh, I remember. We'd go home, Patty, and we'd line up, we'd sit there, and we'd watch the Big Valley together. Nick Barkley with the gloves. Yeah. We'd watch Gunsmoke. Festus Hagen. Went into Town Nation. We, as a family, we'd watch that. Matt Dillon, the quickest drawer. Y'all seen it. As a family, we'd watch Mannix. Y'all remember Mannix and Sandy, as Dr. Moe stole my words. Who loves you, baby? We'd watch Kojak. But there was another show we used to watch. It was called Mission Impossible. Yeah, started in September 1966 and ran through March 1973, and it chronicled the mission of a team of secret government agents known as the IMF, the Impossible Mission Force. You remember Peter Graves and you remember Greg Morrison. You don't mind, let me wet your tongue there, but hit my theme music. You remember, y'all remember Mission Impossible. You know the little light and the match and the dum. Y'all remember. Yeah. Get you ready to watch it. Sit there, get your popcorn and get your Kool-Aid and the mayonnaise jar and get ready. Y'all remember. Y'all ain't got too holy. Y'all ain't forgot what you. Yeah, Mission Impossible. They would set out on what to others would be an impossible mission, but they would always, within that 50 minutes, get that impossible mission. So what biblical faith does, it allows us, Kira, to believe the impossible. Look at verse 23 and 24. Jesus said, "For truly I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe those things that he said shall come to pass, he shall have whatever he said." And remember, that's why I told you, you need to cast down every imagination and evil thought, every thought that's not subject to the thought of Christ, because God just told me I can have what I say, and you got somebody going to run up to you and, girl, you know you can't have all. No. That's not correct. God said I can have whatever that I said. And you ain't going to stop me from saying. Therefore, I say unto you, what things you desire when you pray, you got to believe that you receive them, and then you will have them. My brothers and my sisters, from where Jesus and his disciples were standing, he would have been able to see the Mount of Olives and the Dead Sea. So Jesus, being the master teacher, would use anything. Jesus would use a mountain to secure your entrance. So he's standing there. They can see this thing, and he's given them a very vivid illustration. He's also using a familiar Jewish proverb to teach them a deep spiritual truth, Caitlin, because the Jews commonly spoke of moving a mountain, Tony, as something that was impossibility, or something that would be a long task. And you and I both know, as children of the living God, that there are many situations in this life that it actually appears hopeless. But we've seen too much to know that it is possible. Floyd, ain't no way in the world in 1985 was the Villanova Wildcats supposed to beat the Georgetown Hoyas, but they did. No way in the world, nowhere in the world. This young man called the Louisville Lip that couldn't shut his mouth up. He even told him when one man said, Cassius, you need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. And Cassius looked at him and said, and you know that's impossible. They said, there's no way in the world you can whip Sonny Liston. You just started fighting, boy, and Sonny is a true thug, not just a boxer. You're not going to be able to whip him. And Muhammad Ali told him that it's possible, and not only possible, he told him what round he was going to whip him in. Same thing later, Floyd. Same thing later when he got a little older. I believe he was 32 and George Foreman was 26. Muscles popping out his neck, knees, and thighs. And they said, Muhammad, he's going to kill you. He said, I'm going to shock the world again. And he ended up shocking the world in Zaire, Africa at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we know, Kevin, that there's many situations to us that seem impossible in life. And we know right now in Washington, whether it's going good or whether it's going bad, there's some people said that a black man would never be in the White House unless he was bringing chicken and watermelon. But I'm here to tell you, there's a black man in the White House that's eating chicken and watermelon. Impossible. We never thought that there would be an afro pick and some royal crown in the White House. Hot sauce, Kevin, in the White House. Fried bologna sandwiches on Friday and Kool-Aid in the White House. So we know some things are possible. There are some people, Kenny, that just seem so lost. It seems that it's impossible for some folk to be saved. Even though we know God has all power, it's still some folk, if you was honest, just said that person just ain't gonna be saved. There are some needs that are so great, we say it's impossible. I got an impossibility standing before me. It's some problems so big, Minister Orange, that we just say that there ain't no way humanly possible. And you're correct when you say that there's no way humanly possible, but our faith in God, it allows us to believe the impossible. You remember. I heard him. You remember in Genesis 18:14 where he comes to the tent of the door and he says to Abraham, says, Sarah is going to have a baby. And Sarah started laughing. Sarah said, I'm 90 years old. And Daddy Abe is 100. Sarah said, ain't going to be no children here unless we stop by the adoption agency. Because I'm 90. Big Daddy Abe is 100. And she laughed. And then Sister Jeanette God's heard her laughing. And said, wait a minute, baby. He said, is anything too hard for me? He said, you need to remember, I'm the same one that stood and came out from behind the curtains of nowhere. And you